Welcome to the Couples Expert Podcast with Stuart Fensterheim, LCSW, your source for the latest tips and practical down-to-earth advice on creating emotionally connected, thriving relationships. Now, here's Stuart.
Hi there, and welcome to the Couples Expert Relationship Podcast. Welcome back, everyone. I am so glad to be here today. Do you know why? Because I'm going to be doing my podcast finally on online infidelity. And I left all of you an apology at the last podcast because this isn't the ending of a series on infidelity. We've talked about physical infidelity, we've talked about financial infidelity, and emotional infidelity, and finally we're going to address the online infidelity today. You know, one of the things that I'm wanting to do with this is really acknowledge how much of a slippery slope this is. When we talk about online infidelity, we need to recognize that it's not very clear what exactly that means and how to cope with it. But even more importantly, how to not allow, if you have some sort of violation like online infidelity, really make such a devastating impact on your relationship, and how to stay connected in spite of those errors and the problems that are caused by someone making such a choice that's going to really devastate the relationship. And we're going to talk a lot about that. One of the things I want to remind all of you is that on my show notes, I always put a list of the resources that we're going to be talking about, so you really don't have to take any notes with this because it's all going to be there. The other thing that there will be is a transcript on my website, and that's www.thecouplesexpertscottsdale.com. And one of the things I want to still encourage all of you to do, because I'm really trying to get as many of these podcasts out as quickly as possible, to really spread the word of love, connection, and that really is something that can make a difference, not just in your marriage, your relationship, but truthfully in the entire world. So the more you go to iTunes and leave me an honest review, and the more the name of my podcast and the word gets out that I'm doing these. So let's get back to what we were talking about. What I wanted to, though, before I begin, is really to share a little bit about what things have been going on for me. And one of the things that I did recently that I'm actually pretty proud of, but it really does sort of suggest and talk about some of the problems we have that's really we need to talk about in terms of the image of yourself, your partner, interpretations that people make, because they really do have an impact. So what I decided to do is to do something really nice for my wife. So she was going to get her hair done. And it was after one of those really rough stretches that we had. But things were going quite well for us at that point, because we did have a period where we were really bickering with one another. But we really worked through all of that, talking about our triggers, talking about what happened. And both of us really felt that issue at that period was very repaired. So what I decided to do when she was going to get her hair done is I went to get some flowers for her. And typically when I give her flowers, I usually bring them to the house, or I might send it to her at work. What I decided to do is do something different. Some of you know that I have a therapy dog that I use, who's my personal dog by the name of Ollie. So Ollie and I went to Safeway, which, by the way, she works for the corporation. So there's an issue with that because she always likes when I do things or purchase things through the grocery chain. So I went to Safeway, found some really nice flowers for her. And Ollie and I made the decision that what we were going to do is go to the shop that she was getting her hair done, to walk into the shop, hand her the flowers, and leave without really saying much, except to say, you know what, these are for you, I love you, and I want you to enjoy your time because it's important for her. So what happened, though, is after I left, and I've learned this after talking with her, everyone in the store turned to her and said, well, what did he do? And she said, nothing. They said, no, he must have done something wrong, because why else would he get you the flowers? And we both really laughed about that. But if we really start thinking about it, how sad is that? How sad is that the interpretation that everyone has is that when you do something nice, there must be another motive. So when we talk about online infidelity, and we talk about people reaching out to others for an emotional connection, what we need to be also thinking about is how difficult is it for us to really feel important and for our partners not to assume a whole lot when we get detached, when we do something different. And unless they have an interpretation of us that they are the most important thing in the world to you, they're going to assume a lot. And why this is such a slippery slope is that sometimes it's just about going online, enjoying some private time to look up things, and it's not about something inappropriate. But interpretations get made, so how do you sort of balance that out? So what we need to do, though, is really say something about rituals. What I want to talk about is that when you have a ritual in your life, I'm not telling you all of this to sort of brag, to say, look at me, I'm great because I did this. What I'm really doing is I want to talk about this in terms of the fact that even when things are not going well for the two of you, and you feel like you're on this roller coaster ride, you do need to stand back and ask yourself a question about your relationship. Is this a person that you want to be with? If the answer is yes, and for me with my wife it's a definite yes, you need to keep letting your partner know, even when you argue, even when you're in a fight, even when there's an incredible conflict going on, that they're still the most important thing to you. Because what happens is people begin to feel insecure. And I want to send this message out more from doing ritualistic things in your marriage to keep your partner knowing how incredible lucky you feel to have them in your life. In talking about online infidelity, we need to go back to one aspect of it. One of the things we know about it is it creeps up on you. And what that means is it happens out of the blue without even realizing what's happening some of the time. Because what happens is when people don't really let each other know how important they are to them, you begin to feel really alone, alienated, and lonely. There isn't anything more painful than feeling lonely in a relationship, particularly lonely when your partner is right there next to you. And that is just such a horrible feeling. What we have to do is really do this. What we need to do is recognize how much of a slippery slope that is, because we need to really look at this and get beyond that loneliness without cheating. An online relationship is really not that different. Sometimes it's even worse than having a physical sexual relationship. If your partners learn that you're developing a friendship or have a friendship where you're sharing some of the most personal things in your life, that feeling is such a betrayal to people because you're supposed to be only sharing that with them. And if you're sharing about conflicts that you're having or desires or insecurities or thinking about that they may not be right for you, that is such an awful thing and an awful impact on a marriage, on a relationship. So what typically happens with this is it starts off with just a regular conversation, two people, maybe it's someone that you knew before, maybe it's a new friend, but you're just starting to have casual conversations. And you start talking about mutual interests, tennis, whether you're a runner, And gradually what happens is you begin to recognize that this person really is pretty cool. They're really someone that is interested in you. It's no different than courting someone. And as the courting and interactions continue, feelings get generated. And when those feelings get generated, and quite often they're very powerful feelings, because there isn't generally that ongoing contact, so that what happens for you is you recognize they know you for you. There isn't the pretense, there isn't sort of the going around the bush talking about things. And then you begin to say, you know what, this person, this is maybe one of the few people, if the only person, now hear that message, the only person that knows me for who I am. Truly, I don't even tell my wife, my girlfriend these things, and they accept me for it. They're the ones that really care. And before you know it, you're hooked. And before you know it, the conversations become much more intimate. It becomes private messages and chats. It starts out just in an open chat room, and before you know it, you find a reason to say, hey, let's have a private chat. And when you start having the private conversations, you're in serious trouble. There's a lot of danger that happens with that. So what are some of the signs? The signs of being hooked on the internet by attraction, I think, are pretty clear. What we need to do is look at the dangers. So that if you're in a dialogue right now with someone online of the opposite sex or online with someone of the same sex, and that it's developing into more than just friends, and you're someone that is of the gay lifestyle, if you're doing that and you have a partner, it's not different than in a heterosexual relationship. So it's very dangerous if you're doing that. You need to ask yourself, am I crossing a boundary? You want to be careful about the danger signs that I'm giving, because some of the danger signs are just normal stuff that people do, and it's okay. But if the emotional attachment, if the emotional connection is there, you need to run away from this as fast as you can, because you are having an online affair if you're not feeling comfortable letting your wife, letting your partner know about all the things you're saying with this person. What you have to watch out for, and what are the signs to wonder if your partner's having an affair, an online affair, are the following things. Watch out whether or not your partner is coming to bed later and later. It could be that they're working, but it also could be that they're chatting with someone and it's their way of doing that privately. Because in the technology age, what's the dangerous with this is in the technology age, we're doing more and more online. So we have to be on our computers. So I'm not suggesting to you to start snooping on your partner and checking their history and, or if you're on there with work, to delete your history, because that alone is going to be a sign for your partner. But everything needs to be out in the open. We want to be very careful that we're all the time sending our partner the message that my world is your world and I want you in there. The other piece of this is secretiveness. If there's an increase that you notice with your partner in asking for privacy, particularly when they're on a computer or on a telephone, and that you just want to do your own thing and you don't want them around, or you get annoyed, or your partner gets annoyed if you ask questions about what they're doing. And now with laptops, people take their computers with them to the bedroom, to other places, that it's really a problem. Because sometimes someone's just a private person. They like that private time. They like the time to themselves. And that doesn't mean anything inappropriate's going on. The other thing I want you to watch for is, are there tasks around the house not getting done? Now, if your partner is someone who generally doesn't get it done, it's not a big deal. But for the most part, I'm talking about that time that generally goes into getting tasks done and seeing completion of tasks is now not happening. Could it be that what is that problem about? You want to ask yourself those questions. The biggest telltale sign, I think, though, is really about deception. And I think it's just an increase in deception. But let's remember something. An online affair is really not that different, as I said a moment ago, from other forms of affairs. And when there's a violation of that trust, it's really debilitating, and there really is a sense of betrayal that sometimes doesn't allow you to come back from it. So it's not worth what's happening, okay? The non-acting out partner needs to know what the heck is going on. If you're being questioned, if you're being asked, and something inappropriate is happening in your life, I highly recommend you come clean. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. The last one I want to talk about is the physical relationship. Because what generally will happen in these online affairs is people get very attached and very committed to those people they're in the relationship with. So you may find that your physical relationship is less and less. And the reason for it, and I know this is going to be difficult for some of you to hear, is because it feels like a betrayal to their online affair to have a physical relationship with you. And so if you see a decrease in that, and it can't be accounted for other reasons, you really need to start thinking about this being a problem for here. You don't want to jump to conclusions, though, because sometimes what it's about is we go through phases. We all go through phases. Relationships go through phases. So you need to be careful that you just don't jump to conclusion that there's an affair, okay? What we have to really remember is that an online affair is a fantasy. It's a fantasy that you're having this intimate, close relationship, but it's not a fantasy that there's a lot of emotions involved. So what we want to do now is talk about what do we do if this has been discovered, and how do you come back from it? Typically for most couples, the online infidelity is disclosed by accident. Email program is left open, computer is left on. I had a gentleman the other day that came to my office and said he learned his girlfriend was doing something inappropriate because he went to look up the bank statements, and when he went on the computer, he saw an instant message program. So basically, from his perspective, when he saw these things, she was sexting with this guy. He was furious, betrayed, and does believe she never did anything sexual, but the violation that comes with the disclosure is immense. One of the things I want to remind everyone about is, I mentioned earlier about my show notes, but I also want to mention a little bit about my practice. I have a practice in North Scottsdale. If you want to schedule a consultation with me, I offer a free 30-minute free telephonic consultation. If you'd like to come in and see me to have my help on the relationship, you can also make an appointment right there on my website, which is www.thecouplesexpertscottsdale.com. I just wanted to make sure I put that in there because a couple of people had said that they didn't know how to get hold of me. When we talk about recovery from an online affair, we need to talk about how to get back to a place where everyone feels safe and secure. It's really a step-by-step process. In the beginning, after the disclosure of the affair, is not a time for people to talk about their needs. If you're going to have a recovery, both things are absolutely necessary. I don't know truthfully if there are many relationships that can do this on their own. Plenty try, but my advice, in my professional opinion, is you cannot do this on your own. If there's a discovery of an online affair or any type of violation like that, it requires you going in and getting some help with a counselor. Part of this is a discussion about internet usage. And what I recommend highly is that there is no private internet time at all for the person that had the online affair. My wife and I have had dialogues about internet usage. It's a factor in almost every relationship I know now. So
part of the acknowledgement that needs to occur is the violating partner needs to recognize and be willing to say that they have done damage to the relationship, and a recognition that people don't just get over this. One of the things that I hear time and time again, particularly from the person that did not have the affair, is how long do I have to sit here and just hear how I really mess things up? And I think the answer is as long as it takes. You're the one that sort of put this into the relationship. You have to deal with the consequences. That is how I feel about it. But it can't just be one-sided. There needs to be a mechanism in place where both of you are talking about the things that are problematic. One of the more important things, and one of the things that are going to be required for recovery from this, is going to be reassurance of the partner that the affair is not a reflection of her, because sometimes it's clearly not. You need to take the blame. Do not put your partner in a position where you're saying to them, well, if only you were available to me, then I wouldn't have done this, because you made a choice to do this action. There was a lot of other things you could have done. The biggest one, obviously, talk to your partner. So many people don't talk about it because it feels so high risk, and being vulnerable is really necessary to sit there and say to your partner, I feel empty when we're together and I need more. I had that conversation with a couple of people this week. And really what we have to do is establish a relationship that's safe. As I said previously, you must, in my opinion, there's no choice in this. You must go into marriage counseling or relationship counseling. Okay? When both people are willing to come to a third party and sit down and say, we're broken, we have a problem, it goes so well, partners feel so terrific that the person that had the affair is sitting there and willing to make a shift away from that relationship and put it into the marriage or into the partnership. You need to be doing reading. You need to be talking about how do we survive this and talking about what do we need to do to come out the other side. The other side for me is a relationship that is not, and I'm going to say it again, is not what you had before. What you had before was not okay because you had a vulnerable relationship where there wasn't security and there wasn't a relationship that allows you to be able to not be influenced by another human being and not betray your partner. A betrayal of a relationship, a betrayal of a partner, in essence says, my partner, my relationship is not worth salvaging. If you're at a place where you're willing to put it at risk, why would you want to go back there? So really the answer to all of this is having a different relationship, starting fresh, creating something you've never had, and something that truly, truly is possible. We know how to get people there to where you look at your partner, you know you're with your best friend, you know with the person that matters to you more than anyone, and the other side is you'll never feel alone again because you'll know your partner is there for you and that you matter to them more than anyone. That aspect has to be present to avoid having a vulnerable relationship where infidelity is an option. People who are in secure relationships where they really feel that way, when they find themselves being drawn to someone, they run the other way. And that's what I need to help couples be able to do, to be able to recognize when they're open to intrusion from a negative, awful experience that will destroy the root of the marriage. And if you're willing to destroy the root in marriage because what you feel with that connection with that person online is that important to you, you have not done a good job in letting each other know that there's a problem. I can't tell you how many people I hear from that says, I discovered an affair and it's 10 years old, 20 years old. It's been going on for as long as I can remember, and now I begin to wonder, was there ever anything that was real? And that's horrible. And that's what we need to resolve. We need to create a relationship where you don't question that you're in the best relationship in the world, and compared to everyone you know, yours is better. That's what we want to create. So I want to leave you with that. Online affairs are emotional affairs digitally, and that all the things we talked about in emotional affairs also apply here. So I will be posting on the show notes a guide that I'm going to be putting together on helping people recover from online and emotional affairs. And I wish you all well. I wish you good connection. And I wish you only love to where you know you're loved deeper than, and that you are so important to your partner that no one matters more to them than you do. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode with your host, Stuart Fensterheim. You're one step closer to reigniting that fiery passion with your partner. For more information and your 30-minute free phone consultation with Stuart, visit www.thecouplesexpertscottsdale.com. We'll see you next time.